Hey there, this is Bill Judas, co-author of Vintage Games, co-author of Wii Fitness for Dummies, and co-writer and producer on the feature film documentary Gameplay, the story of the video game revolution. I'm also the co-founder of Armchair Arcade, where you can find out more about these projects. This is a video response to MaximumRD's query on the one, meaning the one video game or computer system that you would want to choose out of all the ones out there if you only had one to collect for. I personally have a collection of over 300 different computer, video game, and handheld systems. So, it's a very tough question for me because I just love the technology in general, old, new, whatever. It's all interesting. But if I had to pick one, just to qualify, the catch is it can't be anything modern. No modern PC, no modern Mac, none of the current video game consoles, and none of the current handhelds either. So basically we're talking probably everything from roughly the mid-90s on back. And that's fine because I pretty much started gaming in the mid to late 70s, so my comfort zone really is in the early 80s on up. Now, basically, the key is to choose the most interesting system, be it a video game console or computer, and one that obviously has sufficient software, hardware, and things to do with it. Now, the Atari 2600, the Mattel Intellivision, and the ColecoVision all had computer add-ons. The Intellivision, of course, had two. The ColecoVision had the Addon, and the Atari 2600 had basically a fairly underpowered computer keyboard add-on from Spectra Video called the Compumate. So those would actually be good choices, any of the three, but their functionality as computers was rather limited. And of course, the Bally Astrocade also could function as a computer, though didn't have a real keyboard; just had a keypad. So I'm going to put those aside. And the early computers, the ones from the late, basically the late 70s, the XCD Sorcerer, the Ohio Scientific, the Interact, the Video Brain, all the also-rans, those are out because, again, they weren't on the market long enough. There's not enough interesting software for them. They're certainly interesting on their own, but they're way out. So that pretty much leaves, to my mind, the Apple II, the Commodore 64, the Atari 8-bit, the Commodore Amiga, and the Atari ST. I'm going to put aside the early PC and Mac, the PC Junior, the Tandy 1000, that whole series. That, again, is out. So, personally, I'd really be looking for the best combination of late 70s, early 80s software, and a system that lasted long enough to basically touch the early 90s to kind of get into more of the sophisticated software. So that would, of course, disqualify the TI-99 4A, even though it's a very, very fascinating system. You can do a lot of things with it, etc., etc. It's still a second-tier system. Now, the Atari ST, I built up quite a collection over the years of the Atari ST. I have the Atari Falcon. It's a really fascinating system. It has a color monitor for low-res gaming. and a black and white monitor for high res, mostly productivity stuff. So my experience is really not with the ST. I was an Amiga user back in the day. Now the Amiga is interesting because it can emulate more older systems than the ST better, as far as I'm concerned. So you have PC, Mac, and Commodore 64. So the Commodore Amiga would be a fantastic choice, but taken on its own, that whole line, you know, again, I love it. I have a big collection of it, but I really want to focus on, you know, on these systems with really old 8-bit appeal that you know, these companies and these users found lots of interesting things to do with. So the Atari 8-bit, that's probably the first one that I would toss out. It had great audio visuals, lots of interesting and different types of models throughout its history, including a hybrid console, the IIGS, and the last model in the line, the 130XE, which had a full 128K of memory, versus, you know, what the platform originally came out with the Atari 400 as the low-end model. So, you know, again, I wouldn't feel bad if I was only left to collect for the Atari 8-bit line, because there's certainly enough interest, but it never reached the support levels or popularity back in the day of the Apple II or Commodore 64. So I would toss that out, but again, it's you know, like the Amiga, it's a great choice and right up there. So the Apple II and Commodore 64. Now the Apple II, of course, was one of the first 3 true personal computers, along with the Commodore PET and TRS-80. Commodore PET, forget about. You know, again, very, very interesting, but that's out. The TRS-80, you know, there was enough interesting software past the early 80s to really qualify. Now the Apple II, that of course, you know, is indisputable. The influence on the industry. It has all the top software you can think of, and it even has an interesting 16-bit extension in the line, the Apple IIGS. But it's interesting to note that the last Apple II made was the enhanced version of the Apple IIe. So the 2GS never really caught on, but that certainly would take care of some of what the Atari ST and the Amiga offered, but you'd still be in the Apple II family. But the 2GS didn't receive a great deal of support, but again, you know, that would be a great choice. Now the biggest qualifier for me with the Apple II, even though the whole series is highly expandable, very, very interesting. They had, you know, great keyboards, you know, lots of games, you know, great productivity, all that stuff. The actual action-based gameplay was kind of weak. It really had universal support for only one joystick, even though it was a 2-button joystick and and it was analog. It really didn't support multiple players. So anyway, that leaves the Commodore 64 line, which came out early enough, 1982, to kind of touch on the early, you know, less sophisticated but very, very interesting software that really started to peter off by the mid-80s, and also had, you know, tons of support, lots of interesting models. It had a color transportable called the SX64, and it had a professional model that ran Commodore 64 software, Commodore 128 software, and CPM software in the Commodore 128. And one of the systems that I have is the 128 DCR, which kind of meets all the qualifications.